Good evening, Council. We'll call the meeting to order. Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Flournoy.
Here.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Revelinsky. Rasmussen.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Here.
Thank you. Council, any additions to this evening's agenda?
Just like to make an announcement about an event coming up later this month.
Okay. All right. We're going to put that under the mayor's report to remind you about that. Michael?
Okay.
I want to start by congratulating Councilman Flournoy and Councilman Hallie on their re-election to this year. Congratulations. And our new Councilman Paul Gandy is in the audience as well. Congratulations.
And congratulations, Mayor Malloy.
Thank you. Okay, post-election fund. We'll move, Council, to our consent agenda. First, we have approval of minutes from the October 23rd Council meeting. We have approval of the October Finance Report. You have approval of Airport Committee minutes and Wayfinding Committee minutes. Approval of the November 3rd payroll of $114,700.86. We have a resolution of employment in the Water Department. Approval of liquor licenses for the Hy-Vee C store and the Order of the Eagles. We have approval of claims in the amount of $1,607,308.74, of which 2 are large construction items related to our water treatment plant to Carly Nelson for $213,616.01. and PKG Contracting, a total of $1,078,623.35. So any questions regarding those consent agenda?
Yeah, Mary,
items?
is that the correct amount of the claims? Because
Yes.
is that the
Yep.
corrected amount?
Yep.
Okay, we corrected those a
Okay,
little bit.
good.
I didn't know.
Thank
I want
you.
to make sure we had the right
Yep,
amount.
appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, Council, we'll move to our public forum and appearances before the Council. We have 2 citizens who are going to be making a presentation on the program that Alliant Energy is planning for 2019, which is to introduce a smart meter to their system. There's a community information meeting on Thursday, the 16th, so 3 days from tonight, where there'll be an open house with technical representatives from Alliant, along with the equipment and customer service folks, to address a lot of the issues that will come up within our community. So there is more information to be gained this week as well, but I'd introduce Kathy Matara and Robert Palmer.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Is this on? Does it even need to be on?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay,
Sure.
good.
That's mostly for the recording apparatus that we have.
Okay. The purpose of our presentation is to inspire you to vote for a whole town opt-out of the smart meter technology. We plan to show you the ways in which this technology has proved unsafe and why many communities around the world have taken a stand against these. We also plan to provide for you a vision of expansion of our community through our offering a safe haven from radiation that will further attract people to live here in Fairfield. Now, I would like to introduce Robert Palmer. He is an electrical engineer specializing in electromagnetic compatibility, radio frequency, and all EMF voltages. He provided his expertise in the Naval Weapons Laboratory in Dahlgren, Virginia, and along with colleagues solved every EMC problem for the entire afloat Navy, working from extremely low frequencies well into the microwave region, 18 gigahertz. In that position, Robert designed the first ever high impedance voltmeter to measure aircraft to deck RF voltages. He was later hired at Naval Research Laboratory and became the lead designer for electro-explosive device subsystems. He was one of the 2 government engineers who set the electromagnetic compatibility ordinance safety regulations for all space shuttle launches. Both NASA and the Air Force gave him an award for this. Robert will discuss the safety of smart meters.
Mayor Ed, I speak a lot more quickly than Kathy does. The remarks now made are the opinions of the speakers. Concerned members of the community strongly believe that EMF, electromagnetic fields, is harmful and that deployment of smart meters will cause deterioration of health for everyone in Fairfield. I have spent the last 5 weeks refreshing myself on relevant research from referee journal publications. I have read and studied many hundreds of articles on the harmful effects of electromagnetic fields, EMF, to human life. Based on that research, I have written a 21-page open letter to the community, which is in peer review now and will be published in roughly a week. My remarks today are a microcosm of that. It is my opinion that anyone who offers an analysis to you of the potential harm to human life of EMF and has not done the same due diligence that I just articulated is not offering a useful analysis. To dispel some confusion, EMF, electromagnetic fields, and RF, radio frequencies, are the same thing. RF is just the use of EMF to convey information, voice, data, video, radar for direction, etc. Microwaves are EMF. They're just very, very short ones. Every EMF has a wavelength from thousands of miles to little teeny tiny ones, and the small ones are just called microwaves. It's all EMF. Research has shown that EMF at any frequency can cause a health problem in human physiology, from very low frequencies like 60 hertz all the way up to microwave frequencies at 18 gigahertz. Cell phones and cordless phones at 900 megahertz are not in any way an exception to what I just said. You can have an old-style cordless 900 megahertz phone, and you can have a new-style DECT phone, D-E-C-T, digitally enhanced cordless phone. The old-style one is not pulsing. The new one is pulsing a lot. So the damage to the health from the EMF, from the pulsing phone, is much worse. Okay, I'm going to go very quickly through this. Topic 1. There are suggestions by some that there is no research showing harmful effects to EMF from EMF to human life. In 1972, the United States Navy published a study on damage to human health from EMF, and they included a bibliography that had 2,311 studies already that had been done in 1972. Dr. Beatrice Golem, who is an MD and a PhD, professor of medicine at UC, University of California, San Diego School of Medicine, wrote a letter that was a plea to the California government to stop the onslaught of EMF. And in her paper, she had 360 articles referenced. Dr. Andrew Marino, PhD, and his colleagues at Louisiana State University, just that small group, has published over 120 research studies, all published in referee journals, on the harm to human life from EMF. And finally, 6 doctors in Oregon published a report where they cited more than 100 previous studies on harm to EMF, harm from EMF to human health. Topic number 2, understanding the mechanism of harm. This is very important, ladies and gentlemen. It's far more than the thermal heating effect that the FCC would have you believe. In your handouts, please listen to Dr. Martin Paul. The thermal heating effect is only a small part of the story. Dr. Paul, P-A-L-L, has ideal qualifications. He's a physicist, so he understands the electromagnetics, and he has a PhD in biochemistry. He's been studying this for 18 years. If there's just one thing on the internet that you do after this meeting, today, tonight, whenever, listen to Dr. Paul, please. Understand clearly that the electrosensitive people who respond immediately to the onset of radiation are not any different, really, than people who don't. Dr. Paul explains that for most of us, it's a gradual deterioration of health that is not noticed until some major health condition comes along and bites us. So it is not that you and me are the tough guys and we don't experience it. The electrosensitive people are not weaklings. They just happen to notice it consciously, immediately, but the rest of us can go obliviously until the 11th hour. Topic number 3, the FCC so-called safe exposure levels. FCC levels are found by many to be very high, which means very unhealthy. Many research studies of highly credentialed individuals and published in refereed journals show negative health effects from EMF radiation that is tens of times, hundreds of times, and thousands of times below the FCC allowable limits. The Harvard University Center for Ethics wrote a paper entitled "Captured Agency: How the Federal Communications Commission is Dominated by the Industry It Presumably Regulates." And this is why most people are distrustful of the FCC. And then very briefly, in that section of your handouts, there are 2 sites. One is damage of increased DNA oxidation and protein oxidation caused by EMF that was 279 times lower than the FCC allowable exposure level. And in another study I've cited, there was a negative effect on morphology and biochemistry by EMF that was 32 times below the FCC allowable exposure level. Topic number 4, pulsing of EMF. It is very important to understand the effect on the human physiology when the EMF is on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. It is worth noting that naysayers of the potential harm to human life from EMF will often cite that the pulsing is somehow a plus. They will mention that the pulsing can effectively reduce the average power. They are ignoring crucial responses within the human physiology to pulsing. And so I've included one here, one particular site. This is Dr. Andrew Marino and his colleagues at the Louisiana State University. It was published in the Journal of Neuroscience. And he had a subject, a lady, and she was in a little test jig, and they applied EMF. And she was sitting there just happy as a clam. Then they started pulsing it, turning it on and off, on and off, on and off. She got immediately very sick. Temporal pain, mild to severe headache, skipped heartbeats, and muscle twitch. It is very, very real phenomenon. Please understand that. Topic number 5, I'm almost finished. Transmissions of smart meters per day. Be wary of word magic. In the context of smart meters, be wary when you hear someone say the number of transfers per day or the number of data transfers per day. Transfers indicate that they're conveying some information, such as usage information. But what we're all interested in is the number of times that the meter radiates per day, regardless of whether it's actually transmitting any information. And I include in your handout an example from the West Coast. 6 doctors chronicled this. PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric. People would call the service department and say, how many transmissions of my smart meter a day? And they would say 2. Many people called 2. And many people used an instrument like this, a professional instrument like this, and measured it, and they found that it was more. So one enterprising gentleman sued PG&E. A court order was put out that they had to actually be honest about it, and they came back and said there's 9,600 transmissions per day. So just be wary of word magic, because they were correct when they said the data transfers were only 2 a day, but the meter was bleeping, bleeping, bleeping for many other reasons. Topic 6, the last topic, precautionary principle. In a nutshell, a precautionary principle says that if somebody is putting something on the populace, whosoever is doing that has to prove that it's not harmful. It is not that the people who are being descended upon have to prove that it does cause harm. Or said another way, if the precautionary principle were active in this environment, Kathy and I wouldn't be standing here. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want digital meters either. Digital meters do not radiate RF, but they have an electronic power supply, switching power supply in them, which puts dirty electricity on the power lines. It comes into your house, it radiates into the space. So you don't want that. We want the old analog meters. They last 30 to 50 years, and the newer ones last 5 years, and they have a reputation for exploding and burning down houses. Finally, this is America. We want to work in areas that interest us, raise families in a safe and not oppressed environment. Notice that I said we want to work. The war cry of the utilities is to eliminate jobs with smart meters. That's not music to my ears. I love the meter readers. Kathy interviewed the Alliant meter reader, ran into him on the street, and very nice young lady. There are only 2 meter readers that take care of all of Fairfield and other surrounding areas. So what we'd like, this absolutely the last thing I'm going to say, what we'd like is we'd like analog meters everywhere in town.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Kathy, go ahead. You want to finish?
I just had a little bit more. Do I have the time?
No, but what?
Okay, I think I can be very quick, just a minute
Go
or
ahead.
two.
Sure.
I wanted to give some specific information because the way I became aware of smart meters was on Kauai. I own a home there, and I was part of the rollout of the smart meters on Kauai in 2012. And I had an opportunity to learn a lot about them. And so in 2012 on Kauai, we got the same meter we're going to get here, the sensor AMI. We were told by the website and also in person by the utility company that it would have mild radiation like a cell phone or a baby monitor and would only radiate a few seconds a day. When the meters arrived on our homes, people were experiencing severe health symptoms, and they're always the same ones from smart meter radiation. I experienced it myself: heart palpitations, headaches, insomnia, and some digestive disturbances. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone in the neighborhood. So everybody was up at arms. Nobody knew anything about these things and were experiencing these symptoms. So I had a friend who had this equipment, a wonderful geeky family that had this, it's called the HF35C, if you'd like to investigate it, it's top of the line, as well as the RF Explorer, and they each measure in slightly different ways, but they do measure the smart meter radiation. And what we found on Kauai is contrary to what we were told. The meters were radiating at 880 times that of cell phone in destabilizing bursts every 2 to 3 seconds around the clock, 24/7. I personally measured hundreds of meters on Kauai myself. So 2 days ago, I was in Wisconsin, the other Alliant area, and I went ahead and brought this equipment because I thought, I would check out what the radiation is going on in the other Alliant area to see if it matched what they told me. I did give a call to the Alliant company there and asked for information about the radiation. And I was told that they radiate 1 time per hour for 1 second, and that at 10 feet from the meter, the radiation drops to 1,000 times less than that of a cell phone. I was told that in Iowa, we will get the same meter, and no one, not even the manager, knew if it would be on a hub and spoke network or a mesh network, which would radiate more. Now, we are told in Iowa here that we are going to get the lower radiation hub and spoke network, which still will radiate 6 to 8 times a day. So while the 6 or 8 times a day would be an improvement if in fact that's what we get, it still will be multiplied by the homes around us because the length of the radiation is very strong. So the 60 to 8 pulses will be multiplied by, say, the 8 houses around you to, say, 48 pulses a day, if in fact that's what we get. In Wisconsin, and I do have a recording of this for anyone who would like to see this afterwards, I went ahead and measured the meters there and recorded what I found. And what I found is it was measuring 250 microwatts per square meter, jumping quickly to the 400 and 500 microwatt per square meter range, and about every 30 to 40 seconds jumped into the 600 to 900 microwatt per square meter range. I understand that all of these readings, even the lowest baseline, is unsafe for human physiology. And again, I encourage you to please take a look at this video, because when I backed up away from the meter, I hit a road at 50 feet. But at 50 feet, I had almost the full measurement that I had in a 3-foot range from the meter. So what I was being told was very, very different than what I was able to measure with state-of-the-art equipment. So once again, I'm very much of the opinion on Kauai, those neighborhoods we were able to clear 2 acres around were the successful neighborhoods that really got relief from the intensity of the smart meter networks. And I would really like to encourage that we are a small town. There are 50 cities in California alone, you'll find in your pamphlets listed, that have entire town opt-outs of the smart meter technology. I would love to see Fairfield be another such town, and that's what I'm encouraging, that we all keep our analog meters. They do not pull power. They do not radiate at all. And there will be a fee if we keep our analogs. Last thing I'm going to say. Okay. There will be a fee if we keep our analogs, I assume, because we've been told that there might be. But the smart meters increase our utility bill more than the fee we will be charged to keep our analog. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your presentation. And thank you for the materials. And Council, I would recommend that everyone make some time on Thursday. Alliant is having an open house at the Arts and Convention Center between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., so you can go in at any time. They will have technical experts, the equipment, customer service people. Go armed with information and ask good questions and see, what it is that you learn about this issue. The request for the city to adopt, a wholesale opt-out policy, it's a huge step. I don't know, how we get there or whether we get there. But I think, as a governmental body that does have a contract with the utility, the first step is to get educated. So advise everyone to do that on Thursday. Thank you again. So Council will move on to our resolutions, action items, and ordinances. And the first consideration is the extension of our contract with Waste Management. Dave Schaub is here with us this evening. David, our last meeting, we had asked you to present a proposal to the council for an extension to take in both the expiring contract that we have at the end of the month and also the request the interest in exploring the use of the larger totes around the city. So if you'd give us some of the points in your extension.
Certainly. Thank you, Your Honor. And for the record, my name is Dave Schaub. I'm the Municipal Marketing Manager for Waste Management in Eastern Iowa. It's a pleasure to be with you again. The presentation or the proposal, which is part of your packet, is just a reiteration of what we discussed at the last meeting. The solid waste, as we would propose for the extension, would not necessarily change at all. You're still allowed 2 33-gallon containers, bags or cans on a weekly pickup. The recycling service would not change. It's still an every other week service in the carts that are provided by Waste Management. We do have some enhancements, which would be a website for the city. The website, and the primary reason for the website is the front office staff does take a number of calls on a weekly basis concerning solid waste items. And because of that, we'd like to put together a website that can be linked to the city's website, which would have just about every frequently asked question about service available to the public at any time. The most frequently asked is the one that has never changed in 30 years, and that's our holiday schedule. It has been the same holiday schedule, but that still generates the most questions and calls. Another thing we would have would be a large and legible calendar of the recycling days within the city. So that would be available. We'll also supply that for mailing to the city for anyone that would like to see that. Sir?
Will there be a list of what items are accepted in recycling?
Absolutely. The back of our calendar is what we frequently use for that. And that's a changing target right now.
That's why I asked.
We're in the middle of a lot of restrictions from China and from other end users for these products, and it'll impact the plastics significantly. In short, the biggest thing that we can do to make sure that the recyclables that we collect in Fairfield are still marketable is cut down on the contamination. So where we've had before, this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, we're going to also highlight what is considered to be contamination. Grocery sacks are considered to be contamination. That's the lead offender. It used to be something we would urge people to do. Now it's going to be much more critical. We have a site that is Recycle Off and Recycle Right, which is a Waste Management branded website, which not only has all those facts in it, but also has educational curricula for grade schools through high school, surveys to take at home and elsewhere. It's just a great learning tool for that. And one thing we've learned in doing this for 30 years is recycling, no one's born doing that. It's an instilled activity, a learned quality. So any learned activity has to have reinforcement, and we've got great reinforcements available through that. That'll also be made available to the city. And I appreciate the question. That answer it? Very good, thank you. The yard waste would see a change. Our yard waste currently is in bags that we sell, either here through the city hall, they're Waste Management branded. That would be changing to your own bag from a big box store or from Hy-Vee or anywhere else, the hardware stores that sell the paper bags, or in a can that's marked for yard waste. Each would require a sticker. The stickers will be sold at both City Hall and any retailer that's interested in town. The price goes up on those to $2.25 or $2.50 a sticker. At the retail rate, honestly, the yard waste is a system that's used by probably no more than 20 to 25% of the residents in town. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact, but it was to the point where it was well upside down on the cost. The cost of the bags and the cost of distributing the bags was starting to exceed the dollar that we received for the bag. So that's something that hasn't been attached or hasn't been discussed or attended to in a number of years. The compensation rate would rise slightly. The compensation rate for combined services to the citizens to the city is $11.73. That would rise to $12.05 for the term of the extension, and we'll get into that term in just a moment. The value of the service rate to the city has been an unparalleled value. In the 7 years of the current contract, that rate has increased 8.3% over the term of that 7 years. So it's been a tremendous value. And it's not certainly going to skyrocket. We just wanted to establish that rate. The term of the extension, as the current contract expires at the end of this month, and how do we get to November already? We'd like to identify that, as we spoke at the last meeting, we want to identify participants in a cart test program where everybody on the council would be allowed a cart for themselves to test, and 15 members of their constituency would be identified. If they'd like to participate, we'll supply the carts for that. We'd like to identify those folks in January, distribute the carts in February with a letter that goes out about the cart, the use of the cart, the evaluations, what we're going to ask for, and start that off. Have those. We will be in contact with those testers throughout the period, but we want to collect those evaluations in June, bring it back to the council in July, and help the city with the formation of an RFP sometime in August. So that's what we've stated for a timetable based on what we discussed last meeting. In a nutshell, that's it. We hope to see an enhancement for the city. We're really happy about being able to bring the websites, both the Recycle Off and Recycle Right, and the website about specifically generic or specific services for the city of Fairfield, and have that linked to your website. So we're anxious to look forward to investigate this with the city. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, any questions that you might have?
I had one point come up from our street department. There are times when they are receiving calls from residents that should be directed to Waste Management, and they'd like a live person or a number where they can get somebody live. At least our folks can, so that they can help iron out that whatever the issue that is.
We can certainly make it an internal Fairfield District phone tree available to the city staff.
Okay.
Period.
We'd like that. I'm not sure we can rely on everyone to use the services of the website. I'm sure there may be questions that are answered there, but there again, I think that for our folks on the ground, it would be good for them to have some contact.
Any information that we have that will be part of the website will also be available in a single-page summation, and we'll make that available at our expense for any mailings that you'd like to do.
Okay. So we would like something in the language to that effect, if that would be okay.
Happy to do it.
Council, I think the main thing is the length of the contract and the proposed rate increase. Any questions on that? So I think the timeline is fine, and I think that'll give us a good opportunity to measure that new program.
I say with the chairman of this committee absent, it'll buy us the time we need to regather in January, get the committee going, and put out the RFPs.
Okay.
And I know that the rate that citizens are currently charged was higher than what we were paying Waste Management, because we were digging ourselves out of a hole that we had put ourselves in by the inverse of that years back. So I would hope that any increase that we pass on to the citizens be reined in a bit from that extra that we were charging, because we're out of debt in that fund now, and we don't really need to be bringing in revenue. Maybe a little bit, like a penny, but nothing substantial.
Okay, so we do have a contract expiring at the end of the month, so I think we should take some action tonight if everyone is agreeable, doesn't have any other questions.
With the verbiage you've requested.
Okay, a motion by Anderson for the amended, second by Rasmussen.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Can we
My
rely
last
on you
duty- my
to
last
come back?
duty- pardon?
And can we rely on you to come back in January and help navigate the
Oh, absolutely.
various? Okay.
Absolutely. My last duty in front of the council in any meeting is to reiterate, as I did in the last meeting, we understand that service to Fairfield is a privilege and not a right. And we thank you very much for the confidence you've shown us this evening. Look forward to extending that relationship.
Thank you.
all.
We do
Thanks.
too. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So council, I just recommend that maybe between now and January, you start to find some guinea pigs in your ward. Okay. Council, our next two action items that are rezoning requests are coming through planning and zoning. We're going to postpone that action for a month to December 18th, primarily because there's an alley that needs to be vacated before that zoning action can take place. So we will postpone both the public hearing for the rezoning of lots 9 through 14 on Block 5 and also the new Chicago planned unit development. Is that correct? Or is it both items? Okay. So for both of those, entertain a motion to postpone both actions to December 18th.
Move to postpone.
Moved by Hamilton.
Second.
Second by Thompson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have agreed on the employment contract for Aaron Koiker, who will be starting in a week. At this point, we need a resolution to approve the employment contract. I think you've all read the points on there that were agreed upon at the interview. And are there any questions regarding the contract?
What's his start date?
November 20th, so a week from today.
Move
So
to
to
approve.
entertain, okay, motion by Hallie to approve the contract,
Second.
second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have an action to take for check signing, and we've lost one city clerk and gained another, so I think that's pretty much our action. Is there anything else that goes into this, Rebecca?
No.
Okay. Entertain a resolution to approve Rebecca Loper for, as a signatory on city checks.
I would so move.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Flournoy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have approval of a engineering agreement with Crawford Murphy and Tilly for the Fairfield Airport. Is there someone who will speak to that type? Robert?
Every 5 years, FAA requires that the city look at and open up to look at other engineers that would be interested in being the engineer for 5 years for the airport. And the airport committee, we had two, CMT and CGA, I believe it was, is the name. And this airport committee chose CMT, which have been with us now. They've been there 20 years with us. And any questions?
Were the bids comparable?
No, there is no
Oh, it's no bid.
bids. No, there's no financial aspect until we have a
Project?
project. And then usually the FA is 90% and the city has to pay 10%, and then out of that is,
They've been the engineer on all of the large projects
They have.
we've done in the last 15, 20 years.
They
So
have.
they know our airport and our facility quite well. They do a nice job.
we do a great job.
Okay, so entertain a motion to approve the continued contractual arrangement with Crawford Murphy and Tilly.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson. Second by Flournoy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next, we have consideration of support for Workhouse Housing Tax Incentive Program application for North Campus Village Phase 6. Is the developer here, Martin Rett? Is there, Josh, are you going to be speaking to this at all? Okay. So essentially, we have, an application similar to what the developer applied for in his Phase 5. He is going in for these tax credits again for Phase 6. This is basically just a letter showing that the city supports the activity, supports the development, and in other cases, we have been a partner through the TIF process, but again, this is a general letter of support for the project.
Do you know if all the units in phase 5 have been sold?
Josh would know.
I'll do my best. So 24 of the units have been completed and turned over to owners, and there's another 8 units under construction. I think there's commitment on all 56 units, but I don't think all 56 have been actually transacted, so just 24. But the developer's still confident that they're all pre-sold.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So, council, the first action then would be a resolution of support from the council for the Housing Tax Incentive Program for Phase 6 of North Campus Village. Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Thompson. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign.
He just showed up.
Thank you.
I say Martin.
Hello, Martin. So we're halfway through your request to the council. We just approved the motion of a resolution of support from the council. So the second item would be the approval of the letter of support of local match, which comes through the city's participation with the developer in the TIF. So entertain a motion to approve the letter of support.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Flournoy, second by Anderson. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay. Thank you. Next, council, we have 3 requests for tax abatements applications, and the first is at 1934 Diamond Lane, property owner is Greco. And I'm just opening up my, what's that?
Internet's having
The
issues.
internet's dying.
Pardon me? Yeah, the internet's a little slow. I wanted to give the amount of the construction, so if anybody has that
Mine open.
open.
Yes, the total estimated cost of improvements is $172,000.
Okay. Okay. So for residential tax abatement, the allowances that our code allows for, entertain a motion to approve the tax abatement.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next would be the tax abatement application for 805 West Low, Don Holting.
Move approval. Oh, I'm sorry, you could get them out.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry,
Mine's
you couldn't
doing
give me
around.
that.
See,
It's not
gonna happen.
this one did open.
Yeah, this amount is
$50,000.
$50,000.
$50,000. Sounds like an improvement cost.
Stands.
Okay. Okay, so entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. And then we have a second at 806 West Stone, also Holting, and the value on that is $75,000 for improvements. Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Flournoy. All those in favor? Yes. Yes, Scott, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
No, that's quite all right.
For those of you that don't know, we do obviously 12 to 1,300 rental inspections in town, and Don has taken on at least 10 to 12 properties that I can think of. Some that have been damaged by fire, some rental units that he has bought and made very, very nice units out of them. So I just want to commend him for what he's done for our town. And for those of you that remember the house catty-cornered from the courthouse that burned a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
big 2-story house. He's consulting with the person that's looking at renovating that and putting some new property up there. So he's done a lot of good for the town, and I just think he needs to be recognized for
Great,
that.
thank you, Scott. I really appreciate that. Don, would you stand up, please, and just see you in the back there? Thank you very much for all the work you've done. And we're glad our rental market has been growing over the last 5 or 6 years. I'm sure you're providing for a lot of folks that are looking to make Fairfield their home. Thank you. So I think we have a motion and a second for that. Okay. So all those in favor we've done the vote. No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay. Thank you. Next, council, we have a public hearing on the matter of the public improvements for Phase 2, which is the requiring an acquisition of agricultural land. This issue went before the public a week ago, and there were some citizens that were concerned about some of what they viewed were changes in the proposed layout and design. You have written objections 1 and 2, and if those property owners are here now, we'd invite them to address the council in this public hearing session. We'll declare that open.
The one property owner states she won't be here tonight.
Yes, that's right. Correct. And our city engineer is not here to talk about some of those issues and how they're going to be dealt with. I met with a couple of with Doug, the committee chair, before the meeting, and the understanding is that in any time we we seek easements and do disrupt the property, it's going to be returned as best as possible to its natural state. But this particular area, there will be some overground pipe, and there is a visual nuisance there. My question was, what is planned in terms of dealing with that? Is there anything that...
I will state that there was an error in that comment.
Okay.
And there is no above ground pipe that's proposed with the project. There is existing above ground pipe that is currently in place.
It'll be removed.
It would be abandoned, so we haven't made that determination as if the above ground portion would be removed yet or
It's
not.
been there for many years already.
So, Stephen,
100 years probably.
yeah. Is it that with some of the trees that would have to be removed in that area, it would become visible?
I think that's the complaint. I think the major complaint is the removal of the trees.
I got a call from one of these ladies, and her concern was trees and whether we were going to replace them.
Okay.
And when I tried to explain that when you replace trees, you're taking down, a 50-foot tree and replacing it with
Right.
a much smaller, and it takes time to get back to 50 foot. That was the concern. But if you look at the project, there's a number of trees in their, I'm going to call it their backyard or their visible line of sight, that are going to be undisturbed. And it's trees beyond that canopy that are going to be disturbed. Right, Stephen? I mean, the trees right out their back door are not going to be disturbed. It's going to be kind of a back layer.
Right. I think it's 100 feet or more to the proposed sewer line from their house.
From their house.
The easement is wider than the sewer, of course.
Okay.
So there could be clearing within that easement.
And is the proposal to replace the trees that we remove or not?
My understanding is trees are a part of the real estate, and so that's a negotiation that will happen with easements. So typically what happens is there's some kind of cash agreement with that negotiation.
Okay.
So,
Right, and in some cases, there are more specific
right.
landscaping.
There is, one tree, or
Right.
some landscaping. I mean, that's all part of the negotiation
Right,
process.
so each property owner will be negotiating what it is that their concern
Right,
will be. But
at this stage of the game, we can't. I mean, we're jumping the gun to get into those details at this stage of the game.
okay,
JCG, they're going to do the negotiations as they did on phase step one.
Yes.
And a lot of the similar types of agreements that we ran into with trees and replacement of yard features that were disturbed and then put back afterwards are going to be very similar to what was taking place
Yep.
through step one.
Yep.
Okay.
Stephen, beside the two that we have letters from, do you know how many properties are affected by this phase?
Yes, there are. There are 76 total parcels. I just gave it to Doug here a minute ago. I think I'd remember it. There are 76 total parcels and 43 different property owners.
Property owners.
The goal is to have this all done by June of 2018.
Yeah. So the goal is to be out for bids roughly a year from now on the project. Is kind of what we're shooting for right now.
so we'll speak to this next one, Rebecca, the public hearing
Of those parcels, they're not all houses, correct?
on the to be one.
With houses on the parcel, correct? Yeah, there's several of them many of them that do
Many
not
of them
have
that don't,
any
okay.
dwellings on them at all. And we're not talking about any kind of relocation as there was at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, thanks, Stephen, I appreciate it. Any other public comment at this time? We'll close the public hearing, and then we'll move to the resolution considering the authorization of public improvements which may require the acquisition of agricultural land. The motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Thompson. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have a rezoning request, and this is at 413 North 3rd. I'm going to have Rebecca describe where this property is and what the request is.
This was the old Ideal plant where Boom Fitness currently is, that owned by Doug Greenfield. He wants to rezone it from an M2 to a B1. the property is already being used as a business as it is. It's no longer been manufacturing for quite some time. So he came before the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 30th. They went ahead and recommended to City Council for approval.
Now, we do build muscle at Boom Fitness. Does that count?
That
That's not
manufacturing muscle?
manufacturing.
No, that's light manufacturing. In my case. I'm not going to put that on you. Okay, so this is public hearing. Is anyone that would like to speak to the rezoning request? If not, we'll close the public hearing and ask if the council would like to move this from the first to the second reading.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Thompson, second by Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Then, council, we have the second reading of the ATV ordinance 1153. Again, this will be a public hearing that will open at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the ordinance in its second reading?
I just want to make note that we made changes per the commentary at the last meeting regarding the, help me Darren, was it level B and C roads?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we
So
did.
those changes were implemented
Okay.
There were
Language was added.
to clarify.
Right.
Right. There are also other changes in this, but this is the public hearing portion,
Yeah.
so it's the public.
Right. And I know we didn't really discuss that at the last meeting when this first came up, but the citizen from Suburban Heights that was concerned about the lack of sidewalks in that area and the usage of the vehicles in the street and the safety concern, I think raises the question again to me about our continued sidewalk program. I think when our new city administrator comes in here, I'd like the Public Safety Committee maybe raise that as a discussion again so that we can look at our sidewalks in the areas where they don't exist and see if we can develop a program. So we'll close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion to move this from the second to the third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Discussion.
I have a question.
Yes.
And section 6 permits, we go items 1, 2, 3, and then we have item 4 looks as if it's struck completely, or is the paragraph that's labeled 3 on the top of the second page, is that to be 4?
The 2 3s there, looks like.
Yeah, several 3s.
Typo.
And then also back to the displaying a reflective slow-moving vehicle sign on the back of the vehicle. That isn't in the county's version of the ordinance. Was there still reasoning as to why we would request that versus the county
The
not?
city attorney would like it included.
He would.
He's here to
You
speak
would?
to it if you'd like.
Sure, I'd like to hear that because that was a concern at the county level, and it was taken out. So
I did get asked about it, and my reaction was you can't err on the side of safety. It's kind of like a discussion we had a long time ago that's in the state law about mopeds and the reflectorized signs. And usually the person you don't see on the moped, when you don't see the moped either, is protected by the reflectorized signs. There's not much difference between a moped and a small scooter, and we have accidents with small scooters and motorcycles from not being seen. And you're going to be in an area where there's all kinds of 4-wheel and 6-wheel, 8-wheel even, ATVs. Some of them are more camo than not camo, and I couldn't think of a reason not to have them marked in some way that would stick out like an orange triangle or a flag.
Okay.
So I felt you're better off leaving it in unless there's some kind of uprising that really doesn't have any wish for it. It's,
Okay, how
it's
would that-
controversial. Some
How would
places.
that mesh then with the idea of the county resident who drives out there and then drives into town? How do we distinguish between those two when it comes to the
Probably you
licensing
have to look at their
requirements?
permit. If they've got it.
You would have to stop them and look at their permit and let them go on the way if they're from the county, correct? They
Correct.
can't be cited for driving in the city without the triangle sign.
I don't know about the intensity of the enforcement on things about that kind of sign.
No, I'm trying to relate that in the idea of one group can come to town and drive and is covered by the license that they get from the county, and the other group that is in town has to have the license that's approved by the city, which is also approved by the county because of the formatting, and how the one can drive with only having a sign and the other one can drive without having a sign, and how that will mesh with our law enforcement and how we would keep track of that or how we would do that. I mean,
we struggle with this from time to time. If you decide to place that in the city ordinance as an addition, we can enforce that, such as with the dog ordinance, with dogs running loose, where it's legal. If somebody in the county allows their dog to run loose, but if it runs in to the city, then it becomes a violation of our city code. If you want to add that, like Mr. Morrissey said, I cannot think of any time, very few times will we issue a citation. It'll be a lot of education, just to advise the folks, once you write it into the city, if it becomes part of our city ordinance, you have to have that reflective.
If you're going to be repeatedly riding into the city and you have a county permit, my guess is that sooner or later you might decide you're going to put the marker on just to avoid the experience. Obviously, the county can do what they want to in their jurisdiction, and we can do what we want in ours. If we want to have more safety provisions and they have less safety provisions, we'll still enforce ours, but probably I would expect there'll be some courtesy extended by law enforcement when everybody's learning
Definitely.
how the permits work for the first year or so.
Definitely.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? If not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, in my report, I have 2 appointments to open positions on the Beautification Commission. 2 proposed names are Jesse Nichols and Joanne Reed, both coming as recommendations from the Beautification Commission.
Move to approve the appointments.
Moved by Hamilton to approve.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next action item, council, would be to set our one regular council meeting in December for December 18th at 7 p.m. Traditionally, with the holidays, we have one meeting in December, so we will set the 18th, if that works for everyone. Entertain a motion to set our December council meeting for December 18th.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Michael, if you'll talk about a legislative event that's coming up.
Sure. So this year I joined the Iowa League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee and was approached by Lindsay McCune from the League, who had been talking with Mayor Lazio of Matumwa about inviting the state legislators to an event where we city officials, Chamber of Commerce officials, economic development officials can sit down in a casual environment and talk to the state legislator about the importance of supporting cities. The League of Cities has found that many legislators think that, for example, the backfill isn't necessary, the cities are doing fine, that we have all the funds we need to do what we need to do. And so this would be a nonpartisan, casual environment It's taking place Wednesday, November 29th, 5 to 7 at the Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa. And we'll just have heavy appetizers and then just sit at round tables, talk with our state legislators, tell them success stories, tell them about our challenges, and then they'll get a chance to speak in a kind of a casual way, to stand up where they are and give us their input and just let us know that we've been heard. So everyone in the council is invited, entire Chamber of Commerce Board and FEDA Board are invited. So if you can make it to the event, it'd be great just to have a real showing of support from Fairfield and an opportunity to educate our legislators about what city functioning is all about.
Okay, thank you. I think that would be very valuable. And maybe we can get an email out to remind council members. Michael, if you could send something to Rebecca, and she can make sure that gets out to everyone. Next, we'll move to our committee reports. Ways and Means Committee.
We had a meeting last week. The first visitation we had was from the library. Particularly, they're looking into doing something with solar. And how they could help with that, the library, and it was the foundation. Michael Halley was there, but since he was representing the firm that was doing that, so it turned out it was a one-person meeting. We couldn't make it. But we did tell them, though, that it could be something that I think the city should look into a little more. I think they're going to try to develop more information on it that they could bring before us. The other two items, the one that we could take some action, there's going to be some action on coming forward, is the plan development with the Jack Culp, extending the roads.
Correct.
Some of that. And again, it was how to finance the streets with Melanie. We talked about that, and they're going to work on some proposals.
Okay. And this is Tyler?
Yes.
A street that borders the new development that he's put in there, correct? Mm-hmm. Great.
And then the final thing, we really couldn't take any action on it again. We've kind of put that on hold for a little bit, was for the neighborhood development out there south by the hospital. So, and again, there's some other issues with that. We decided there's really nothing we could do with it at this point. So.
Correct. There was a meeting also earlier this week with the developers where they asked if we would, look at their agreement again. So that I think is going to go through a process to see what it is.
And that's why that's why we didn't feel we could do anything more at this point.
Okay, thank you. The Water and Sewer Utilities Committee.
Yes, we met tonight at 6 o'clock. And we had to deal with 7 sewer reduction requests. We don't have a city minister in place right now to deal with most of these, so they all came to the committee. Of the 7, we approved 2 on the order of about $1,200 because the leak that occurred was to the ground and not to our sewer system. The other 5 were denied for various reasons, mostly because we couldn't establish where the water had gone, or we knew that it had gone down the sewer. We have an issue with step 1. Melanie wasn't there tonight, but her position was to table this until our new city administrator was on board to discuss issue with the country club. Although we did hear about step 2, Steve gave us a map of the step 2 layout, and we were recommending approving that to the council for approval. And we had another issue with Rathburn Rural Water Association. They want to make a modification to the existing contract. We talked about that a little bit. We felt we should table that until Aaron's on board as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. What's that?
He's going to have his plate full.
He's going to be busy when he gets here.
Yes. Okay, we don't have any project reports this evening, so if there isn't any other business, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Hamilton, second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign.